Hi, I'm Preston, the founder of Scale. We help businesses adopt AI and automate their business processes to make more money, lower costs, or leverage their time. I want to do something a little bit more off the cuff this time. I've seen a lot of tutorials for automations, n8n tools, or even just a lot of stuff on LinkedIn that's just like, hey, just grab this free template. But I think what's missing from there is context on how to actually build something. I think learning the logic of the steps is really important, but also a lot of these tutorials are built with very curated or assumed information, and their data set is perfect for that one specific instance. I found it really frustrating to try to just plug and play a lot of these that they claim that it's plug and play. It really isn't. Um, and I kind of Frankensteined a solution that works. So what I want to do is just kind of build it from scratch, kind of talk out loud the reasoning behind, using different nodes or different logic and how to actually make something that matters and that works. So what I want to show today is a email categorizer. So this is something that I built for myself based off of a lot of different tutorials. Um, a lot of them are like, oh, just give it to an AI agent and then just have it sort everything. Well, I did that. It didn't work. It was very unreliable. It just wasn't consistent, and that's what I needed. I needed a consistent, you know, email sorting, something that followed the rules and didn't break the rules and actually did the job, didn't put the wrong emails in the wrong place. So this is what my inbox looks like. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I only see the emails that actually matter. So AI reads all of my inbound emails, and then it takes emails out of my inbox and it sorts them into these different folders. So if I see something that's for admin or financial or leads or meetings or whatever, like, or people selling me stuff, like I took this from Nick Sarave. Shout out to him. He has some awesome tutorials. And I think I lifted worthwhile from him as well. But I kind of came to find out, okay, what are all the labels that I care about for my emails? And so if I see a number here, I'm like, I will check that, maybe just not right now, so I don't get distracted. So maybe I just focus on what's most important, what is in my inbox. So it's been huge for me. And I've actually given this to another busy CEO, and it just works. I hooked up to a couple different email accounts. So in order to make this work, though, a lot of these tutorials they don't really tell you what you need beforehand. Though, uh, you need an n8n cloud subscription, or go ahead and go sign up for a 14-day free trial. You just go to n8n.io, sign up for a 14-day free trial, and you can just work in the cloud. That's how I started, and it was great. It was enough for me. You get like 1,000 executions, which is plenty when you're getting started. It's way more than you'll ever need. Um, or you can, go for extra credit and do self-hosted n8n instance. It is not necessarily an open source software. It's a what's it called? I think there's a term for it where it's not open source, but it's I forget the term. It's like free to use it on your own. But once you hit, there's certain limitations, and you'll have to like pay for it up anyways. So, uh, yeah, go at n8n.io. Another thing that you're going to need is you're going to need AI model API access. Now, API, if you've never heard this before, is application program interface. That's basically access a program without the UI, without the things you can see. You just have code that requests information and receives information. You have to create an account and you have to put in at least $5. I haven't even used $1 yet. So don't worry about like, oh no, I'm going to use my $5 and then it's going to charge my bank account or whatever. Like, use cheap models when you're testing, when you're starting out, and it's fine. You really only don't need to use the most advanced models unless you're doing something like really advanced that requires it. Even then, my usage has been very negligible. You will also have to set up Google Gmail API access. I've seen a lot of tutorials. They spend the first 5 minutes just setting this up, and I don't. It's just too much. It's like, why didn't pick up this video to see how to hook up my Gmail API access? So I'll put all those links in the description for good tutorials I found. No need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so let's build this. Let's just create a new workflow. Oh, sorry, that is adding a new node. We're just going to create a brand new workflow. Okay, so to get this started, what I want is you always need to figure out what is going to start this automation, right? Are you going to trigger this manually? Are you going to have this on an app event, on a schedule, on a webhook call? For the most part, when you're starting, you're just going to be doing things manually on a schedule, or if you know exactly what you're going for, you know, on an app event. This time, we are going to do an app event. I'm going to choose my Gmail, and I'm going to say on message received. So basically, when I get a message, run this automation. So you can change the frequency of how many times it gets triggered. Some different triggers have different modes for the different times. I'm just going to leave it every minute and every message is received. I'm not going to worry about any of these other settings for now. So to kind of see what this is going to get, I can do this fetch test event. Oh, let's see. Find any data in Gmail to simulate an event. Please create one. Oh, sorry. Let's do my email. There we go. Okay, so this is going to kind of give me an idea, and this is just a schema. You can also view it in a JSON object. Okay, to see what are you going to get when you pull an event, right? When you get an event. And this is important because these things right here, this is the money. This is what's going to flow through your automation. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do, here's another important thing. To use this as my test data to make sure that it runs the way I want to, I'm going to simply pin this information. I can pin it here. I can also come here and I can say pin, or it gives me the keyboard shortcut. I just like clicking the node, say pin. Turns purple, and now it's like stuck in that node. So if I ever want to take whatever is in that node and pass it on to subsequent nodes, it's very, very easy. So next thing I want to do from my, I want to get more information. Before I start doing things, I want to get more information from my email account. So I'm going to do Gmail again. And I'm going to do specifically, I need to get a list of what are my current labels from my email address, right? So I'm going to return all the labels from my email address. I want to see what those look like. Okay, sorry, I want to keep kind of going back to mine because I have, there we go. Let's see, and let's look at all. Okay, there we go. Now we can see all of my emails and all of my labels, my custom labels that I've set. And you can see some of the labels that I set earlier. And this is important specifically for Gmail because Google doesn't really do folders. They do labels. And if a label is attached to a certain mail, then it's visible in that folder. So it acts like a folder, but really isn't. So this is how they operate. So specifically, I'm looking like, okay, I got these IDs, and these are very custom IDs. So anything in these all caps, these are set automatically or exist already automatically with Google. Anything here with this like label prefix, label underscore prefix, that's custom label that someone has built. So then what I want to do is I don't want to really do anything with Google's, default labels. I'm going to take advantage of this prefix of all the custom labels. So then I'm going to do what's called a filter. And this is the best way actually I find to find any node. Just type it in. You'll become familiar with the most common ones. But you can also go into different groups like in AI, you could have these like very common nodes that you're using. Action in an app, like these are going to be like, integrations with other external apps. How to actually, do some flow control, but I'm going to do some data transformation because I want to remove the Google default labels and I only want my custom ones. So I'm going to come in here, and this is what makes n8n so powerful. So I can do a simple drag and drop, and I would say, okay, my JSON ID, and then I say, okay, what are you going to be equal to, or what should you start with, right? So I'm going to say you should start with label underscore. And then I'm just going to check my logic here and see. Like, okay, well, maybe I didn't do something right. Okay, let's see. Label. Let's maybe just remove the underscore, see what happens. This is just how I work. I really like to do a lot of quick and dirty testing and just kind of like almost mash it. So it's, oh, I see. My logic is wrong. So I'm not saying, okay, I don't want to see if the entire um, string is equal to label, but rather, does it start with label? So I'm going to change this and say, does it start with label underscore? Aha, there we go. Yep. So now we've kept only my custom labels, which is great. And we've discarded all of the default ones from Google, which, you know, if you want to, you can add another condition. You can say, or, you know, JSON ID is important. I don't know, maybe you want to keep important for some reason. That's up to you, but you can continue to add more conditions, right, for your filter. So another thing I like to do is be very specific with what my nodes do, because it's really annoying when you've built something, because what n8n will do if I add like another filter here, and all I did here to add another filter was drag and drop this plus, and I can say filter. When you add another node of the same name, it just starts being iterated. You get a number at the very end and it just keeps going up. And when you're going back through your logic, maybe you have an issue or you need to reframe your logic or reorder it. It's kind of annoying. Something like, wait, what does this do again? You have to click into it, you know, double click, be like, hey, what is this? And then you have to like reload it into your brain. And that just takes time. You know, the whole reason we're doing this is to save time, right? So we can do things and say, you know, be very specific. So you can hit the three dots here and hit rename. You can also just hit space. I am used to Windows, so hitting F2 also does the same thing, or we can just hit the space bar. So I'm going to say like, this is get my Gmail labels. And then this filter, we're going to say only custom labels. All right. And the reason I do it this way is I'm like, okay, Gmail trigger makes sense, self-explanatory. I see the Gmail icon here and I say, okay, I'm going to get my Gmail labels. There's also sometimes a little note here. And then I see this is a filter, right? It's the icon of a filter. And I'm saying, okay, filter only custom labels. So I kind of complete that in my own mind. You can absolutely, you know, filter only custom labels if you want. Whatever helps you know what that logic is, so you don't have to waste time going back into it again. Now, here's something something interesting has happened here. So you notice that we have one item from one email that triggers this automation. That's one item. So that means that this node is only going to get run one time. However, this has now created 25 items. So now there's like 25 things that are all going to go through the automation at the same time. The way n8n handles multiple items going through is it executes the next node that many times. So if there are 5 items going through, it's going to execute the next connected node 5 times. Now, the filter node acts as a little different in that it will handle all the numbers coming through. It is expecting many items and it will filter it down to fewer items. So this is one of the few exceptions to that. Same with like using the if node, right? So I could say, you know, if, let's see, I'm not typing if, I'm saying if ID, or let's maybe do message list visibility. Let's say that if you are show, right? And then it's going to say, oh, for all of the message list visibility property are set to show. That's true. For all the false, it's everything else, right? So this node, and again, some others are expecting multiple items, and it's going to send 7 this way. It's going to send 5 this way. So to account for that, what I like to do is kind of group all of those items into one. If I want the next node to only run once, or, you know, I only want it to almost like act like one time through one thing through the whole system. And in this case, I'm getting my Gmail labels not to run for every single label, but rather to use as a reference. What are my custom labels? So having multiple items going through would be useful if you were wanting an execution for each item. In this case, I'm not. So I'm going to use what's called the aggregate. Basically, I'm going to bring everything into one thing. And I'm also going to bring the name in here as well. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to do all items into a single list. And I'm going to say labels. These are my labels that I'm going to put through. And I'm only going to do specified fields. So basically, I want everything to go to a list. I want the output, let's call it an array or just a group of items, right, to go into, I want it to be called labels. And this is important later, you'll see. And I want only these fields. Like this is all I care about. So there, now I have this like group of information called labels, right? And then these groups that are like, oh, here's the ID and here's the name. And we need to take out important. There we go. Got to re-execute it. It still had 12. I'm going to go back to 11. Okay. So sorry if I sound long-winded. I think this is important because there's a lot of tutorials that say, just put in this node and just type this in. Just put in this node and type this in. Just put in this node and type this in. And I can't tell you how much time I've wasted with those tutorials being like, well, why? And then maybe they don't go over one node in the whole thing. And it's like, well, that one node is important and I'm missing because you didn't open it or you didn't talk about it. You didn't tell me what to put in there. And so now it doesn't work and it's useless to me. So I think this is important to kind of understand why are you doing these things? What is the decision making behind this, so that you can understand when you need to do your own automation, or you want to create your own workflow here in n8n, and you understand, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, and then I know that I can do that with these different tools. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is something that actually took me a while to figure out, but it is really, really important because different emails should be handled differently when they are different, right? So in an email, and I'm going to see if I can get some here without, here we go. I can do this because this is me just buying some swag. So you know how your email will automatically group your messages together? Well, Google specifically calls this a thread. Now, what if you received a new email and you wanted it to go to the folder where the previous emails already went in this conversation, right? If I have something in Project Ops, why would I want then a new email in that thread to go to admin? That doesn't make sense. And I lost a lot of emails with that issue. So with just a little bit of clever logic here, we can say, I'm going to throw in an if node to basically check to see if an email is in a thread or not. So the specific text that I found specifically that comes in with the email to see if it is indeed part of a thread is this right here. I'm going to copy this over. I'm going to set string to exists. And you can see I don't have anything else on my right here because it's just going to say, like, is this included in the piece of data that you gave me, right? So this is also some interesting notation. So in these past nodes, whenever I've dragged and dropped something over, it's $JSON. And JSON is just short for JavaScript object notation, which is just, it's written like this. It's code that is packaged like this. It's just what's called an object, or think of it like a box of data or a package of information. And that's different piece of information can be included in that JSON, right? So when I just have $JSON, that's referring to the previous node's information. But this back here, this Gmail trigger, I have stuff in here, right? Well, how do I reference that later? And this is something that I don't know why no one else mentioned this in other like tutorials or guides of like how to refer to a node way far back. And I was like super confused because I was just like, I have JSON in here, like what's going on? But it kept telling me undefined. I was like, I have $JSON. Well, it is, this if node is got to go over aggregate, over filter, over this, and back to the Gmail trigger in order to get the information, right? Because we went to, this pulled information and this pulled different information. And these three nodes are all handling the information that came from this. So if I then want to check the logic of something further back, I can either type it out. I can do just a parentheses, and then that's going to give me, hey, these are some earlier nodes, right? I personally find this faster just because I'm already on my keyboard. So I can do that and I just only typed in the parentheses and I'm using the up and down arrows. And I just hit the enter, but it's still wrong because the way that n8n packages up the information in these nodes and passes them to each other, it's called an item. So I'd say .item.json. And then that's how then I can get the information from that. So if I execute it, then it will say, oh, nope, it's undefined. And it's undefined. This may be a bad example for the email because this text right here in reply to in the headers does not exist. So the email, the test email that I have actually does not exist. So it is not a thread. It is a brand new email. I'll go back and I'll pull one that pulls the right information. I'm going to rename this. You can also click right here and rename a node thread exists. Because I just know that this node icon is an if. So I just say if thread exists. You can, again, type it out if you want and throw that in there. So, okay. So if the thread exists, then I will have to do some specific treatment to that thread. So I actually won't be able to build this logic without having a thread email. So let's just continue on. Then now is the time to bring in AI. Now, however, I like to clean things up a little bit, right? So that what I kind of touched on just a second ago with the $JSON, it's a lot easier to write that and to maybe not make mistakes or that. I won't touch on that just yet. Okay, I'm gonna do something here that's data transformation, and there's this magical field here that's like set, and you can kind of think of it almost like a reset. Where you can set whatever you want as whatever you want. So in this case, I'm going to use this as kind of just a stepping stone. I don't have to do this, right? I could absolutely not do this. Me personally, I just like doing it though, because it cleans things up for moving on. And I don't have to have this big long, thing in here for, like, imagine how much nicer this would be if I could just right. It's a lot more easier to understand maybe when you're even just looking at it instead of trying to where's that logic from again? So I'm going to use this set and I'm going to go back to, this is a really cool tool on the input side of things. If I'm here on any node, I have my left side, which is my input, my right side, which is my output. I can come over here and I can pull something from a previous node. So this set, I'm going to go to my Gmail trigger. And then I'm just going to start dragging and dropping some stuff. Specifically, I want to grab the ID of the email. I want to grab the sender of the email, which is from, no, it's not from, oh, I know what's going on. I have this simplify on here. And if you see what's on here on the right, this is all I get with the simplify. And it's basically like, oh, let's just take out the information that maybe the user doesn't need. But me personally, I care about that. So I'm going to unpin this and I'm just going to execute this again. Fetch test event. So I can get a lot more information from this email. And I like that. So I'm going to pin that. And then I'll just hit the play button right here and just go so we can kind of go all the way through and bring the data to my node again. Because if this was not connected and I'm trying to do stuff in here, I don't have anything in my input. It says, hey, wire me up, connect me to something that has data. There we go. So now I can go say, all right, let's go to the Gmail trigger. And this is the easiest to do, like when you're doing a bunch of different things. I do like doing that. I could absolutely come in here and do double curly brace. It finishes it for me. I just, type that in. $, and I could say even come in just with my arrows and say, oh, let's go back to the Gmail trigger, type item.json. Right. But this is already, again, we're trying to save time here. So in this instance, when I'm taking lots of information from a previous node, it's a lot easier to just drag and drop in this case. So here I'm going to do a sender, and we want to look at from, and we're going to look specifically at the address. There we go. And I'm going to put it in this bottom thing because the top is actually going to be the name of whatever it is. In this case, I'm just going to say this is my sender, because I'll show you what it looks like when you just drag and drop it from scratch. You get this from dot value 0 dot address, and it's just kind of its place in the JSON package. But I don't want that. I want it to be called sender. And then in the next node, all I have to do is reference $JSON.sender, which is really nice. Okay, next I'm going to get the subject, and I think I already passed that. Subject. And the email body, which is going to be item.json.text. I'm going to rename that to email body. So instead of just saying, well, what is text? It's easier for me to understand. This is more like, okay, labeling for humans. Okay. And then I'm going to get my labels because I want to bring those forward and give those to AI to consider. So I'm actually going to just go right back to my thread exists. And right here at the top of my table, I could come here in my schema as well, or my JSON, I can come and grab that. It depends on what data you have. Sometimes it's useful in one view, sometimes it's useful in another view. But I'm just going to come grab here at the very top, say, okay, I'm going to grab my labels. And then this top ID, instead of just saying, oh, ID, because there's actually going to be two IDs that I'm going to consider, email ID. So I'm going to say this is specifically the email ID of the email, because there is a thread ID. And I'll show that with another example. So, okay, so these are my Gmail trigger fields. Now comes the fun part that everyone likes. We're going to actually add AI to this. Now that we have the information from the email and we have the labels, we can now give all of that context to AI and say, hey, here are all the things you need to consider when you're reading through this email and then making a decision on where to put it. So I'm going to hit this plus icon to bring in a new thing. I'm going to say AI. And in this case, I'm just going to do a simple call to a model. Now, the most common ones are Anthropic. This is Claude, Gemini, and OpenAI, right? ChatGPT. Don't worry about this AI agent. That's for another tutorial. If you want to do anything else here, this is like your basic node for calling any other kind of LLM. But there's a lot of built-in things here for ChatGPT, which is really nice. Don't worry about all of this stuff. Don't worry about assistants or text. Okay, you're just going to say message a model, which is just what you're used to if you've used ChatGPT. Send a message to the ChatGPT model and receive a message back, because we're just operating with text in this one. Now, there's a couple things going on here, right? So you have your API, and this is where you're going to put in your API key that you create when you sign up for that. And then you're just going to say, I'm just going to message a model. I just want to like ask you something and get something back. But the cool thing here, beyond what you can do in ChatGPT, is we can actually send it multiple prompts right in a row. So the first thing that we'd probably want to do is tell the AI agent who they are. What are you doing and why, right? So that is going to be a system, right? Set the model's behavior or context for the next user message. So then we can say, you know, you are a vampire and you're going to only respond in blah, blah, blah. And you'll only get a response back in blah, 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 right? But this case, I have some prompts that I've worked over for a while, and I will supply these in the description of this video so you can just copy paste. So I used AI to kind of help me build these, and then I was like, that's not that great. I want better. And so then it was very, very useful to then customize it from there and say, these are the labels I care about. This is how you should handle them. Because I had to go through and add like edge case considerations like, hey, you're not doing this right now, but you need to, right? So uh, this is my message for the system. Like, right, you're an intelligent assistant dedicated to organizing emails. I find when you're looking at fixed here, it's hard to see if you have like a big long piece of text. It's kind of annoying. So I just come to expression, and then you get this little like pop out, and then it shows you this is your expression, right? Anything inside the curly braces is going to be a variable. It may be different between the different calls. Otherwise, you just have text. And it's like on the right, this is what it's actually going to result as. And then the nice thing is you can actually just come through and drag and drop stuff in, which is really, really, really nice. So this is just the system prompt though. This is just saying, this is what you do. This is the context of who you are, what you do. I'm going to now add the user. Okay. And this is a very, very specific prompt. Okay. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So again, I'm going to provide this prompt for you. So the first is just kind of telling it, this is what you should do. These are the steps you should take, right? So this is your categorization process. Analyze, you're going to, multiple categories, choose the single most, like you can only do one. Evaluate the labels that you have been given, find the matching label name, leave every email as unread, except for those with the following categories. You can add these rules however you want, right? And then the output. Now, this is something maybe you haven't experienced before. I want ChatGPT to not say, oh, you should do this and then do that. Well, then how do I use that information in this like what you've seen? How do I then pull that out of a JSON message that's useful if it's just a paragraph? Instead, we can tell ChatGPT, like, forget about all the fluff, okay? Just give me a JSON object and then put the information I'm looking for here, here, and here. So that's what I do here. Respond as a JSON, right? And you say, okay, you're going to do a label to add. I want you to do the label that you need to add to this email, the label ID, and then mark as read, true or false. Like, should you mark this as true or false? And there's going to be some logic later where it's like, okay, if this is marked, mark as read, mark it as read. If not, leave it alone, right? So probably be better to read this if I add a little tab right there. Okay, now this is then when I get into the label categories, and this is where you can take my prompt, paste it into ChatGPT or wherever you want, and say, I want to add these labels and remove these ones, right? And it will kind of make some assumptions on maybe what that label may entail, and then you can curate it from there. And that's what I did, right? You use ChatGPT or an AI model to get you most of the way there, and then use your human brain to actually, like, make real decisions, because sometimes it does things that's not very helpful. So I have all the instructions for my different labels here, and this people selling me stuff, things kept coming through. Now it's like 100% accurate now. I never see marketing emails come in my inbox, which is great. It's awesome. So it's like, hey, these can be tricky. Look for these kinds of things. And then here's a really powerful thing. If you've never heard this before, give AI an example. Like, because now you're paying for AI, you're paying for API access, you actually can have these prompts a lot longer, and have used, stronger models. And you give it 2 to 3 examples and say, this is what you've kind of are looking for, or this is maybe what your result should be. And that's very, very powerful. Okay. Again, coming down here, just a final remember at the end. Remember, your goal is to save time. Like, when in doubt, be conservative. And when you think that it is actually worthwhile. And since I've implemented this, I think I've only seen like 4 or 5 worthwhile emails, and I'm glad. It was definitely worthwhile. It's something I needed to pay attention to. It was urgent. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to remove that. That's actually from an old account. Okay. Okay. I'm going to change that too. That's updated. Okay. Okay. So now I have my prompt, but this AI model is still clueless. It's blind. It's like, okay, that's great. I'll do that. But with what information? So I'm going to execute this little set thing right here. And all it does is it just grabs the information that I want, puts it into this nice little JSON package, which is nice, right? I have all my labels here in a group, which I use with that aggregate to kind of bring it all together. And then I have my email body, I have my subject, my sender, my email, enough for my AI model to analyze and make a decision. So then I'm going to chain on, let's actually give it a model. I'm just going to use something cheap for now. Just do 4.0 mini. Very cheap, older model. And prompt. Then I'm going to give it another prompt. Okay, I'm going to say let's actually go through here in this expression. This is where it gets really easy. Okay, so the email ID is you, and the sender is you, and the subject is you, email body. And this is another reason why I went and renamed everything, because then it's very, very clear to me what it is. And I don't have to reload any kind of prior logic or code into my brain. It's very, very nice. Labels. Cool. And then you can see the result here on the right, right? So I could see, okay, this is the email that I got, the full text of the body, and the labels, and here is the ID of the label and the name. And I did this specifically so I didn't have to come into my prompt and say, I can say worthwhile instead of label 6238 blah 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 and copy that over. I could it gives me another way to be more natural in the way that I interact with this, and I use the technology that I can say apply this label, and this is what it's called. It's called financial. It's called projects or ops, right? So now I have enough information. I have a system prompt saying this is who you are, this is what you do. I have a prompt giving it with specific instructions, and then another user prompt that says, here you go, here's the information. And I don't even have to be specific. If I want to, this is just kind of like wasted tokens on AI usage. Here's the information. If you want to, you can do that. It'd be nice at AI. That might treat you well when they take over the planet. So there you go. It's execute. So now it's basically sending all of this stuff over to ChatGPT, and then it's just going to get my response back. There we go. So it followed my exact instructions, and it said, okay, cool. The content of this message is JSON object label to add resources, right? You're going to add the label of resources. Here's the ID, and this is important because you have to give the ID to Gmail to actually do it. Mark as red, false. Don't mark this as red. Though the output of this is actually, I think it's off because, yeah, so it actually outputted this as a string. You see these quotes here and how this is purple? That means that this is actually a string. This is just text. So it put these 3 backticks here at the beginning, at the end, to be like, oh, this is code. Now, this is something that I did give the specific instructions to ChatGPT to say, hey, this is, give this back to me in JSON format. But in this case, it didn't. It's missed this, right? So there is this nice nifty little button here. They can say, hey, why don't you actually return this in JSON format and ensure that it comes back as a JSON object, because that's what's important. I can take these different things here. Let's just put a node after this, like a set fields. And if I want to drag and drop, I can bring in content, but it gives me this big long string, and that's now not useful, right? I actually want what's inside of here. So I'm going to run it again with that output content as JSON because I want to receive an object back. There we go. Sweet. So now my content, right, is it's got this white text. White text, I can use that. Okay, cool. Now we're going to go through and we're going to actually take the feedback from AI and say, sweet, now this is what I want you to do with this new information. Okay, so I'm going to add another Gmail node and I'm going to go down to the label section and I'm going to say, I want you to add a label. Sorry, we're actually going to go to message. I forgot. Yeah, because we're modifying a message. We're not modifying a label. We're not adding a label, deleting a label, getting label info. We are going to add label to message. Okay, now this is where everything starts to kind of flow in, which is really, really nice. We can come back to our Gmail trigger fields because we set it right there. We don't have to go all the way back to the beginning of the automation. Sometimes there's some bugs where if you go too far back, for some reason the data there's different reasons why you may not be able to access that data. But it's just 2 nodes back, which is really nice. I'm just going to drag in, that's my message ID. And then my label names or IDs, if I want to add in multiple, I'm going to go back to my AI node and say, this is the label ID. I can't add in the name. It says add in label names. I tried it. It doesn't work. Okay, label ID is just the most robust way of making sure. Label, let's see, it's not supported. Let's go make sure it's set to my email because that label doesn't exist in the other one. There we go. Cool. Now it has assigned that label successful, right? Now we're going to check for the next bit of information that I passed through here. We're going to throw on an if node, do some logic, and we're going to say if I don't want to get the information from the last node because Gmail is just going to be like, hey, cool, this is what I did, and here's information about what I did. Like, that's great. I don't need that. I'm going to actually take this from AI, because I had asked AI to make this determination for me. Hey, mark as read. Now I have a problem here because this right here, this T, this means that this is set as a text object. It's expecting a text object. Instead, I have what's called a Boolean. If you've never heard this before, this is basically true or false. There's your Boolean. Both Booleans, true or false. There's only 2. Okay, so I can say, hey, if you are true, right? And I can say if mark as read equal true. I'll just remove that. Mark as read is true. And it should be false because we have it set to false. So say, nope, you're going to go through the false branch. That's how we can kind of divert traffic, right? Then, if we're not going to mark it as true, we just want to go to the label. Now, I don't want it to show up in the inbox anymore. Now, this step is optional. You don't have to do this. You can still have it in your inbox and just have a label on it. Me personally, I don't like doing that because it still gets overwhelming when I look at my mailbox at like the end of the day and I see a bunch of emails and it's just like I have to read through all the labels. Instead, I'd like to just look at the label name and see how many, just see the number, how many emails in this category. And my inbox is completely empty. And then that way I only interact with or get distracted by the most important emails. Like it's good for me to get distracted by a certain email, right? So I'm going to then build this out, Gmail. And then I'm going to do a message. Remove label from message. And this one, I'm going to grab my email ID and the label name or ID that I want to take off. I can come in here for this drop down actually and pick any of the built-in Gmail labels. So any mail that comes into your account is automatically given the inbox label. And that's how it shows up in your inbox folder. So instead, I want it to go out of my inbox because we've already applied another label. So it's going to show up in both folders, right? So I'm going to now remove inbox so it goes out of my inbox and instead only shows up in the label that I have applied. Okay. So, and I'm going to say, instead of remove label, I'm going to be very specific. Delete inbox. I'm not consistent with my capitalization. Inbox label from email. Okay. Then that is actually the end of the automation, which is really, really nice. Now let's finish the logic here. If a message is marked as, yes, you should delete, or sorry, you should mark this as read so that it goes into that folder and it doesn't show me the number. Like anytime someone wants to sell me something, just throw it in the folder. Maybe I'll check it later. Maybe I won't. But mark it as read so I don't see that it's a message I need to look at. Right? I'm going to say Gmail and mark as read. Mark email as read. Okay, so here's a little trick that I learned. This is something that's a little bit of an issue when you have like some running data through, and it may not meet all of your logical standards. So right now, right, this message, this test message that I got from this Gmail trigger, AI said, yes, we should not mark this as read. We should leave this as unread and put it in the resource. If we do that, I'm going to just run this because I've been executing every other step. I think this email already had its inbox deleted, so that's probably why it's not going to be able to. Actually, let's do that first before I say that. Okay, there we go. It actually did delete the inbox label. So here, right, we're not going to reach this logical step because we do not have a mark as read as false, right? Or sorry, it needs to be marked as true. It is true, which would come up through this true branch. Instead, it is false. Like we should not mark this, or this is mark as read. It's false. Get my booleans mixed up. My gosh. Okay. We have an email. Its mark as read is false. So this comes down the false branch. If it says mark as read, then we do need to come up through the true. But we don't have a link back to the data. It's completely empty. It says, oh, we have no data. Well, then how do you then get the message ID? Well, you could come in and type it in if you want to. Like I could copy this. And put it there. And this is just like, hey, this is not executed. So you'd have to execute it first to see if this even works. What I like to do instead is just drag and drop just temporarily a little node connection here, and that will pass in the data. You got to be very careful about this. It can be, dangerous because you do things the wrong way. So I'm going to make sure I put the right credential for that, and then I'm just going to snag my ID from this, and I could take ID from that too. Yeah, I'm just going to go. Just go like that. It's the same. So I did that just to pass in my little JSON variable here. And I did that just to make sure that it turns green. Because what if I accidentally type it out and I have one letter off? I've totally done this before. You have one letter off, you're missing a period or something like that. And then you expect your automation to work and it just does not. Well, this is one easy way to just kind of verify like, okay, I do have the right logic here. So I can pass this on. Then I'm actually going to just put that right there because even after I mark a message as read, I still want to delete the inbox label from the email. So even if it's like, I don't want anything that I mark as read to still be in my inbox, it should leave my inbox. Every email should leave my inbox. So no matter where you go, please leave my inbox. Okay. Well, that is it actually, which is really cool. Let's see if we can. I'm going to clear the execution here. I'm going to run the whole thing to see if it runs through. Cool. So even though in my email box, this resources here, this was already done, right? The email, the inbox label was taken off. The resources was added on. It was already done. So even when I run it through the automation, it's not really going to change anything because it's already deleting what was already deleted. I think it would be better if Gmail actually errored out and said, hey, I tried to delete something and I couldn't. That would be more accurate. So now I want to add in the logic here for a thread. Now this is important because threads, again, what I was talking about earlier, a thread should be handled differently. And there's a little bit more complex logic that needs to come in here. So I'm going to bring this down and around to kind of make some room for our true branch. But first, to test this, I need to go get an email that is going to be true, that is actually exists in a thread. And I found the easiest way to do this is to just kind of like, when you pull stuff from your email, it just pulls the most recent mails, and that's from everything sent, you know, all of that. So what I like to do is just pull in a node here, just a Gmail, and this is just temporary, and say, okay, I'm going to get a message, get many messages, so I can see a lot. I'll just look at, I don't know, the last 20 for now. From here, execute. There we go. There's my 20 items. I have simplify on here, but that's okay because I'm just looking for, maybe it isn't. Let me check. What we were looking for the header. Yeah, we can't simplify. We have to do the full blown email. Okay. Headers, there we go. Headers. So in reply to, nope, we don't have it here. Let's search. I'm just going to do a Control F here. In reply to, there we go. We got a winner. We got something here that is in a, this header exists in this email. So that's how I know it is part of a thread. So I'm going to snag the ID of this email. Just gonna come up here. There's my headers, okay, and my ID. Now you see here, I have an ID and I have a thread ID. Now this is important here, but I'm just going to take this ID right here. Okay, I'm going to turn, actually I can leave that. I can leave that there. Now I'm going to do a Gmail get a message. And the reason I got this ID is so I could just put that there. And then that allows me to then put that right there. I don't need to remove my trigger. It's fine. It's not going to do anything right now because I don't, it's, you know, it's inactive. This workflow is not doing anything. Now I can get this message using the right credential, of course. There we go. I can get this message, and these all should work as well. Oh no, if thread exists. Oh, that's why. Haha, see, there you go. Referencing a node that I'm actually not looking at right now. So this, you know, issues like this is referring to the Gmail trigger, which I'm actually not pulling the information from. I'm pulling the information from this one right here, but this if node references the Gmail trigger. Instead of typing in you know, be like, oh, okay, it's going to do this one now, I'm going to type in this one, you may run into a problem, right? So this may be, maybe this is a little too complex. Yeah, it's too complex for now. You can write a complex, you know what, let's do it. Come on, let's do it. No, let's not, because once we're done with this, this is just a temporary tool for us to get here. So I'm going to put in a little sticky note. I'm going to copy this for safekeeping. I'll put that right there. I'll be very specific. Gmail trigger JavaScript. Okay, there we go. Now I'm safe that way, and I can put it back, and I have a little note. It's like, hey, what is that? You know, go resolve it. Now we can say, let's not do the Gmail trigger, but let's do get a message. Execute. Oh, let's see. Get a message. Reply to. let's do this. Sometimes n8n kind of complains about stuff like that. Oh, it says get a message hasn't been executed. It actually has. But let's do manual. Let's put in a manual trigger here. Let's hook it up here. And this is good for testing. This is good, right? You get to see how do you troubleshoot this, and good for testing. I do this all the time. So I'm going to then change the way when I hit this execute workflow, I'm going to change it from instead of the Gmail trigger when I'm doing the manual flow, or I could even just say execute workflow, but I don't want it to go beyond that. So this is probably be better to do this and hit manual and hit just play up to the node that you want to go to. See, went to the wrong one. Doop. Oh, wrong one. See? In this case, it'd be safe because you don't want to like waste AI credits sending it the wrong way. It wouldn't go this wrong way because it'd be false. But just disconnect it for a second, right? And then just execute the entire workflow up to the point that you need. There we go. Now we have it. This is true. And it's because it found a in reply to for this. So what we need to do is we now need to handle the thread. So we're going to go to Gmail and we're going to go to thread. This is another useful thing. I haven't been doing this yet. I've been looking in the list, which wastes time. Don't do that. We're doing this to save time. I'm going to find my node, Gmail. As soon as I do that, another search bar, just start typing again, thread. Okay, we're going to do get a thread. Okay, then so we do that. We are going to come to our get a message, and we're going to get a thread ID. Now, we'll probably have to change this back to the Gmail trigger. So I'm going to put these here. Add to thread exists and get a thread. Okay. Let's do that. Execute. Oh my gosh, it's always the wrong. I got to figure out how to do that. I actually don't even know how to do that yet, but the right credential that always shows up at the top. Reorder that, like prioritize. Maybe that's a feature, maybe it's not. If it's not, it's annoying. Okay, now I got my thread. Woohoo! Sweet. Now what I want to do is I'm going to check. I want to take the labels that I have here and I want to split them out into different groups. And the reason why is I then want to put them back together to check to see if what I have is a custom label or not. Okay. So I'm going to split this out. And that probably doesn't make sense, but let's explain it. You'll understand it in just a minute. Okay. I'm going to come to my thread exists because I can do that in the if, because whatever goes through the if or the filter just gets passed right through transparently. I don't have to like jump over a node to go back and get that information. Okay. I'm just going to go back to thread exists and I'm going to go to, let's see. Labels. Is it this one? No. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right. Go to this. There we go. I want to get the labels in my thread. What are the labels that exist in this thread? Because if I go into Gmail here and I look at a thread, that any information that's going back and forth, there may be multiple threads that are in here. Or sorry, multiple, like what if the AI is like, oh, what if, I should assign this over here. I should assign this label or assign that label. Well, I want to check to see what all of the current labels are that exist in that thread. And I can find that by coming in here. Where are you? You can see labels in here. Yeah. So we say labels. Cool. So I want to split these out. Like, what am I looking at? Okay, so I see that I have a sent, I have a label, I have meetings, and project ops. Those all apply because maybe there was an email in this thread where there was talk about meetings and the AI said, oh, this is about meetings, right? But I don't necessarily want the next one, everything to be found in the meetings folder. I want it to continue to be found in project ops because this is an op that is going on our existing project. I want it to be continue to be found in there. Okay, so I'm going to grab that. So now I have 3 items, and I don't want to execute the following nodes 3 times. So I'm going to use that little trick again to aggregate these things into a single group, a single array. That's what it's called. So now we just have 1 item, right? We went from 1 to 3 to 1. And I just want to kind of use these IDs that currently exist in this thread as a reference. I'm not wanting to execute, I'm not wanting to run the next nodes 3 times, 1 for each, label. Then I'm going to use what I found that I actually had to run in some specific custom code because there wasn't a node that actually did this thing. And it's just a tiny little bit of JSON or JavaScript. I basically went over to ChatGPT and I said, write this for me. That's the great thing about using these tools is you can just use AI and just say, hey, do this thing for me, write this. And it's really, really nice. So this basically just takes in the ID and then says, hey, you're going to return true if any item in the array starts with a given string. Basically, this is doing that check, like if anything starts with label. Now, you could even just do this as, a filter, now that I'm thinking about. But what I specifically wanted to do is just kind of simplify it down. It's like, just give me the stuff that starts with label. Let's just not do code. Let's now that I'm going through this again, I could probably just do this with a filter. I don't know why I didn't think about doing this earlier. Okay, we're gonna say array contains or array object, because this is an array object. Contains label. Let's see. Yeah, see, that's the problem. I think that's why I had to do custom code, because I had to check in that there's nothing in n8n in this filter node. I tried it like with the if, I tried it with the filter, and it was like I had to combine 2 nodes into one, and then I tried, putting one after another, and it just didn't work. I was like, let's just do code, okay? Because honestly, that's all these little nodes are anyways. And this is really useful when you just have this very specific thing you need done and you can't really figure it out. Just go to ChatGPT and say, this is what I need, and be very, very specific on what you say. This is my input, this is my desired output. So in this case, I only wanted to grab the custom labels from the thread. I don't want the sent. I don't want, because in this conversation, in this thread, right, there will be their email to me and then my email to them, and that goes in the sent box, and I still needs to be in the sent box, but I don't want it to be filtered based off of that, right? It kind of just messes with the filtering. Okay. Now, the next thing that I did here, which you can do with an if node, but if you want to be a little bit more refined, there's a refined if node, and it's basically switch, which is kind of the same thing. If this, go here, if false, go here. But if you want to be a little more refined, you can have even more options. You could have 3, 4, 5, 10. I think there's some limit. Maybe it's 10 options in your logic. But think of it just kind of like a dressed up if node. It's an if node with a tuxedo. And then we could say has custom label, or we could say custom label switch, right? Okay. So then I'm going to say, okay, what is the result? My result, it's not a string object. This is a Boolean. It's true or false. Boolean object. Like if you are true, go here. And I like using this. Another reason why I say it's dressed up is you can even name the output. Like what does it look like on the outside? You'll see that in a second. Has custom label. I'll do another one. Boolean is true, is false. My bad. Almost got you there. Rename, no custom label. I could have very well done this with just an if node, because it's only 2. That's 1 input and 2 outputs. I just like sometimes having the little blurb here, and it tells me like, oh, here's the logic. This is what's going on. So here we go. Okay, so if it has a custom label, then what I like to do is just leave it alone. I don't need to sort it. I just need it to go back to that label. Okay. I don't have to touch it. I can just leave it alone. Okay. So if it already has a custom label, if this email has already been sorted into projects, resources, or something like that, okay, then I'm going to, okay, Gmail, I'm going to say Gmail label. I'm going to add label to message. Let's run this so that we have, there we go. We know that it has a custom label. Then we can come back to our get a message. This is our ID. Then we do have to note that we have to change this again. Before I forget, I'm going to write that again. Add to, and we've got a list going on here. Get a thread. And this is add label to thread. Well, at least we add not to the thread, because the thread already, we're not going to do that. We're going to add label to message so that it falls in. So we're looking at the different messages in this thread. Then we don't have to worry about chasing it to another thread folder. Okay, so for the ID for the label, just right there. That's what I got from my little code thing right there, which is really nice. So add label to thread message. Very specific, as specific as you can. And then we don't want it, because I did have this as an issue. I would assign the label and thinking that it would just go, but I still, because it was a new email and every new email receives the inbox label, you have to remove it. Now you could just come over here and be like, put it in there and just say, okay, no matter what, I want to remove the inbox label. I found that to be a little messy. I don't know. I just like doing it this way. So I'll just copy this node. I just did a Control C, Control V. I can also right click, copy. And oh, there's no paste right here. I'm going to Control V. All right, cool. Okay. And it should already have everything that I need. I'm going to execute this because this handled this specific email. Oh my gosh, this credential. The output of this Gmail node is going to give me the message ID that it interacted with and the inbox label. And it's going to say, sweet, cool, I'm green here. That means that this node will succeed. And then this no custom label, basically like if you are a thread but you don't have a label yet, then you should be given one. And then I'm going to reconnect this right here. And then I always like to do a little cleanup right here to kind of just make this a little nicer. All right, now let's make sure that we do what we were supposed to here. I'm going to turn this back to the Gmail trigger because this works as expected. And just confirm, let's just execute the workflow with that one message. All right, awesome. And I'm going to disconnect that. That was just for testing. These guys up here. I like to kind of sometimes just like anything I was using for testing, just leave it. It's really annoying when you delete something and then you're like, wait, I need that again. And you have to undelete it, go find it again, or type it in again. Just again, you're wasting time. The whole reason we're doing this is to save time. Okay, now let's make sure we follow our note that we left behind. Add to thread exists. We're going to change this back to Gmail trigger so that this automation can continue get a thread. And split, let's see, add label to message. All right, okay. Now, if I try to run this again, I'm going to clear this execution, execute it again. Okay, Gmail trigger. Goes through. Nice. Again, it's not really doing anything because it's already been done. Because I already have this other workflow already running on it. Now, how do you then test, like, okay, we know that it works here with this specific email. Well, what about the other email, right? So I'm going to unpin this and let's create a test one. Say, let's actually send one to myself. Preston net gets scaled. Oh, that's not it. Send one to myself. Thread test. Hero. Cool. There's my email. Let's reply. Turn this into a thread. As soon as there's a reply, this becomes a thread and it receives a thread ID. Let's say WhatsApp. All right. We got emailception going on here. I'm sending emails to myself and responding to the emails. Now, this didn't do anything right now because I need to now grab a test event. Important. There we go. From me. In reply to. Sweet. We have an ID. Let's see. Actually, let's just, I don't know. It's a little weird. It's not grabbing the ID. Let's just execute it. See what happens. Haha. Yep. See, failed. Check your parameters. Okay. In reply to blah, 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 blah. So maybe it has an issue with, I'm sending an email to myself. Let's add in respond. I'll come over to another work email address, or let's just do this. Again, I don't want to pretend that everything's hunky-dory if it's not. It's just my get scaled at Gmail. Let's go to Gmail here. This is what I had before I got my company domain. Thread test 2. Haro. Maybe it because that I have that other automation set to already go. There we go. Now, so the reason I'm able to see this in my inbox is, again, because this Gmail trigger only runs once per minute. So once per minute it checks and then executes and it does, goes and does things. So if I sit here long enough, I'll see this thing disappear out because right now it has the inbox label applied to it. Though there is a little bit of a lag here in the UI, I've noticed, where if I'm looking at the email, I have to like almost come back to the inbox after it's run and then it will be gone. Otherwise, I'm kind of like seeing the ghost of the email. So, well, hello, my good sir. Now I should have this as a thread. Let's check. I'm gonna unpin this, fetch test. No Gmail. Let's respond to it one more time. Mighty fine weather we're having. Now, this should actually be faster than the UI. Let's test. Oh no. Haha, got it. Now we should have a nice thread ID in reply to. Oh, sorry. We're just checking if this exists. Huh. I was looking at the wrong thing. Thread ID. That's what we're looking for. Thread ID. Thread ID? There we go. Oh, just did it wrong. There you go. Thread ID. I looked at the wrong place. That's what happens when you're working live. Huh? Not editing yourself. The magic of editing. No mistakes at all. Perfect. I know everything that I'm supposed to do. Just have watched me jump around. And then I know everything. I'm the expert. There's mistakes, sometimes you just do something dumb. That's fine. That's the way it works. Okay, cool. Now I have that. Let's check to see if it handles this thread properly. Execute. Oh no. That is the wrong one. That is the wrong one. We were checking. I did it wrong. Look at that. Look at it. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. I did it wrong. It's not JSON. It is thread ID right there. I don't want to grab that. Haha. See? This is why you test. This is why you test. We know that's here as well. Nope, it's in add label. In reply to. See, my logic was I said, here's my check to see if it is a thread. And then I just automatically assumed that that was also the thread ID moving forward. That was the mistake. This is why it's good to come in here and test. And, oh, okay, add label. So probably Gmail trigger, label ID. Project ops is not supported. JSON. Oh, huh? See, I need to go to my Gmail trigger fields. I need to go. Hold on. Wait. If I get from the model, label ID. Oh, that's wrong. AI gave me the wrong information. It should have the label to add and the label ID as project ops. Let's see what it got. So I give it the ALI. Oh, it didn't get labels. It did not get the labels. What is going on? What is in labels? Okay, labels there. There's my list. In my thread, or sorry, in my array. Okay, because I aggregated it back. And then when I give it to my model, what shows up here when I give it my labels? Labels null, JSON labels. All right, I have something wrong here. Labels, JSON dot labels. Okay. I think this is dot labels. Oh, what is this? Because I have my array. Ah, I see. I have the wrong type. I have labels set to a string type. This needs to be set to an array so that it knows that this is an array. Oh, hold on. Let's do a drag and drop again. Let's just see. Okay, this is an array object. Let's see what's going on. JSON.labels. What is wrong with you? Something obvious. I know it is. Array object? No, that's not going to do that. No, because we know it needs to be an array. What am I missing here? I'm doing something wrong. So let's see. And I'm giving it this thread. I have my true branch. I have my labels as an array. Yep, array. Object. String exists. False. Do this and this and this and this. Gmail trigger fields. Oh, I see. I am pulling the JSON labels from the last node executed. And this does not have labels. It's undefined. It's null. Doesn't exist. So instead, this needs to get it from thread exists. Let's check. Oh, that's the same thing. Ooh, we have a conundrum. Let's see. I'm not going to fix this with the magic of editing. This is important. This is an important part of doing these automations. And I want you to see how you can logically think through this and find your solution. So our issue is up to this point, because everything filters in to kind of right here before we go to AI, we need to pass this the correct information so we get an array here. That's interesting. So it says undefined, but then when I click here, it says here's the result. I'm pretty sure that I don't want to do that. And I want to do thread exists item.json.labels. So let's see. Okay, so we're being given an object though. An object array is what we have an object, and I'm receiving the object, not the array itself. I could do that, but I don't want to. Okay. Let's just, okay. I don't want to just say, oh, it magically worked. Let's just leave it alone because it magically worked. Because that's one of the banes of like being a developer. You say, it works. Why does it work? Or no, first start, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And then you do it again and you fix it. It's working. Why is it working? Did I just say the same thing? It's not working. Why is it not working? And then you fix it. It's working. Why is it working? I don't understand. Because if I do this, I should get null again. I get null again. Then when I undo that and I give it back reference to the proper node, then I get the proper information. Because I'm not going to, this is that labels array does not exist in this JSON. And that's where it's receiving this. It did not go through the false branch here. It's receiving it from this. And this would be actually a totally safe thing to do, because even if, whether it goes and does its thread ID stuff, or it comes directly to this node, I'm still referencing the prior node, which is totally fine. That's a totally safe thing to do. That's what I want. Yes. So now when I come to my model and I can see what it's going to receive. Ooh, that's wrong. JSON.labels. Object. Let's see. Let's maybe turn this into a string. See what happens. Okay. So yeah, maybe turning into a string. Yeah, you know what? That was kind of my logic in the past. Let's turn this into a string because we're giving it to ChatGPT, which it's not going to really understand an array object. Like if I pass it an array object, it's going to be like, what's this? But if I give it a string that is in the format of an array, it can understand that. It can identify that. All right, cool. Now let's execute. Aha! Project ops, and now it has a label ID. Let's finish off this thing. Let's run the whole thing again. Handles a thread. Add label. Trigger. We got to get the ID in there again. Label ID. Haha. Execute. And we'll just hit play at the end. Delete from inbox. Now I should, if I come to my inbox here, inbox should be removed. I'm going to just reload. Uh-oh. Let's make sure that this works. Delete from this that we're having. Then remove label, inbox. Sometimes I've noticed it just takes a minute for the UI to like catch up. Because this should be gone. And I've noticed this before. It's accidentally removed the inbox and I didn't apply a custom label and then I couldn't find it. I had to search for it. I could only find it here in search because it didn't exist in any of these. It didn't exist in any of these. It's kind of weird. It almost like went to Neverland. Oh, no, it's not. We're not waiting for the Gmail trigger because that only happens every once in a while. Let's just reload. I'm going to copy this. Here's the thread ID. I think it just needs to be handled a little differently. And we're going to throw in on our manual, Gmail, delete a label. Not delete a label, remove label from thread. Let's get the thread ID over here. There we go. I know that it works when everything's wired up properly. Maybe the fact that we're like running this manually is kind of like what is causing an issue. Let's just check. So we'll remove this from the thread ID, change this to manual and say execute. My credentials, execute, done. Now, I think that the inbox is, yeah, there we go. That's what it was. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. Nope, I did this wrong. Ha 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 ha. Up here. That's why I put this logic. We need to delete the inbox label from the thread, not the message. That's what it is. So I'm going to hit undo. I accidentally deleted my reference to the thread ID. Ew. What is my, let's see, I had to do it to message ID, get a thread. Do we come up here, right? And it does not have a custom label. False. So the thread did not have a custom label. And maybe it does now. I'm going to unpin this. I'm going to hit P. I'm going to do fetch test event. I'm going to pin that there so I still have it. Run up here, this logic. What? It should, because it's been given the project ops thread ID custom. I'll have to address that. I just know it works when I have it this way, but I want to delete the inbox label from the thread because it's the thread, entire thread is brought to the inbox when a new email in that thread is received. So I'm going to remove that. And I think I'm just going to type this one in. So doing the double curly braces just automatically turns it to a or a variable. So then I'm going to say get thread item JSON.id. Because when I pull the thread here, I get my ID because I'm specifically pulling the get thread. And if I just add label to thread message, label just type it in manually for now. Oh, I don't want to go get that ID. We'll just do that. Nope, it's not Gmail trigger for the message ID. Add label, thread, add label. There we go. That's what we need to do. And then you do thread ID. We're going to go back to get thread, drag and drop that in, execute. Add label to thread and delete inbox. There we go. From thread. specify email. That's what it should do. I had that wrong because here this is the whole thread branch. Basically, like, okay, if the thread, well, it should only come up here if the thread, oops, let's see, deleting the wrong line here. There we go. It should only come up here if it's dealing with threads. If the thread does not have a custom label, then we come back here and we classify that with AI. If it does already have a custom label, then we just add it to. No, you know what? I'm gonna change my mind. I'm changing my mind. It's now that I'm talking it out. That's incorrect. I don't add it to the thread because it already has. Because this is my logic here. It already has a custom label. If it already has a custom label, I don't want to do anything to it. Why would I add a custom label when it already has a custom label? That doesn't make sense. Instead, I'm going to get a message Gmail trigger, and I'm going to add it to the new incoming email to make sure everything's consistent. That's what it is. Now I remember. Add the label to the message, and then delete the inbox label from the thread if it is there. I think I had this here where it's just like, okay, I'm just going to add the label to the new, right there, however that, delete that. Add this thing, add this label to the message, and then for some reason the threads remained in the inbox, and it's because the thread received the inbox label as soon as a new mail was received in that in that thread. Kind of a complex, weird way that Google decided to program that, but hey, it works. Yeah, this is it. Let's check. Let's check to see. I'm gonna put these side by side. Ooh, dang. Yep, looks pretty similar to me. Yeah, that's it. That is my email automation. Sweet. All right. Well, again, this was kind of a long form. Honestly, props to you if you made it through all of this, but I hope it was helpful to um, I wish there was more content like this, that people would build something, make mistakes, have problems. There are some good content creators out there that do put up content like this, but I wish there was more. Like, I want to hear what's in your head. Like, why are you doing that? Why did you choose that node? When you had this problem, how did you go about fixing it? Not just like, oh, let me look over here and this is what my perfect situation does. No, this right here, this automation, if you build this for yourself, like, this is real. This is a real automation that I use every single day. I have multiple other people use every single day. It actually brings value. It's actually very useful. I mean, like, this is my inbox every single day. I love it. I love seeing this no new mail, unless I have something important to look at, and then I'm so motivated to keep it empty, I immediately grab it and throw it over. But even just like this meetings, anytime I have a meeting with someone, it just pops in here, and all these things like, oh, here's your recap, here's your quick meeting, someone accepted your meeting. It's like, it's just all clutter, and I should only see stuff in here if I know that people are doing meetings with me. So I really like it. I really find that very, very useful. It's just something that I was like, at the very beginning, I was like, I need this and I want to learn how to do it. This is a kind of a conglomeration of multiple email filtering tutorials, and I've cut out all the fluff, all the stuff that doesn't work, all the stuff that's like, I saw one where this guy did an AI agent, and he's like, oh yeah, you just put an AI agent, and then you have all these tools in here, and it's like Gmail, you're gonna add a label, and I don't know, message, add label, and then you're gonna do it here if you have a message ID, and you're just gonna let AI right here choose to see what label ID it should add. I tried that. I had the prompt. I did it. It didn't work. It wasn't reliable. And with business, it's all about reliability. It's all about repeatability. Um, doing all the advanced like AI, agent stuff, it's not reliable. It's not consistent. And it was really annoying to just regularly have missed emails or emails I couldn't find. I was like, this is just, no, I need to do something that's reliable. And this is it. And most AI applications, you'll notice, it's mostly automation. It's mostly programmatic. It's mostly logic, and with a little bit of AI magic in here. And so that's exactly what this is. Mostly logic, mostly if this, do that, if this, do that, right? And then a little bit of AI where it kind of bridges that gap. Like this kind of trying to program out and code out this logic here would be, it wouldn't make sense. Why would you do this? Why would you spend the time to do this? Where you can just give a very specific prompt, refine it over time, give it to AI, and AI does the exact thing that you need to, and gives you the result that you want. So the only last step to do this Gmail trigger is going to pick up new emails is just to make this active. And it's like, okay, cool. Now it's active. And you can set up, if it fails, you can set up some error notifications. Like, okay, what do I want to have done when an error happens? I want to have this workflow, like perhaps when this workflow will get triggered when there's an error, and just send me an email that says, or a message on Slack or whatever you want. It's like, hey, your automation failed. And you can set up other things like, your time saved, like how long would you say this would take you, like 5 minutes per email, 5 minutes. And then it basically is just times the number of executions times the time saved. And it says, oh, you've saved 50 minutes because you did this for 10 emails. So I don't really use that yet. Reliability of AI steps, you can use evaluations. You basically just create like a Google sheet of a bunch of test things to run through. Kind of how I had to go and do a special way of getting a message that I knew would you go down a certain level of logic. I could come to a Google sheet and type out the different pieces of information that are going to come in, and I'll, say, oh, this is going to be true, that's going to be false, it's going to have this ID, it's going to have this, issue or whatever. And then how does my automation handle it? Does it break? That's really, really helpful, I found. So there you go. There's your email categorizer. You built it for yourself. If you got through this, if you got your setup, and then you got my prompts here and my piece of code, my snippet of code, you have an email categorizer. If you don't want to go get that, here, I'll do this for you. Pause the video here. You can type this prompt yourself. I've definitely done that kind of stuff before. Here's my prompt for categorizing my email. Feel free to pause it at different times, and you can write out this whole thing yourself. If you don't feel like you want to be bothered to go and get it from me, I don't even know where I'm going to put it yet. I'll put it somewhere. So I think I've been talking way too long. I think this video is way too long, but yeah, here you go. Here's the email categorizer. Again, this is not just a quick and dirty, here you go, here's an automation. This is more help you think not the right way. Help you kind of logic through this. Okay, what is someone who knows how to do this? What are they thinking and why? Why are they choosing these different things, right? So hope it was useful. If you like it, feel free to leave a like. I don't believe in asking for all the stuff on YouTube. You're a independent human. If you like the content and you want to see more, you will subscribe. That is just what you would do if you want more of something, right? You say, hey, let me know when there's more. If you like the video, and that's very, very easy for you to do. I like videos when I find someone who makes really good content. I don't like anything else. I only like, yep, you deserve that. So, yeah, feel free. I'll be probably posting some more stuff like this. Depending on the engagement, I'll do some more to kind of, again, go through the thought process of doing something like this. Anywho, have a great day, whatever day it is for you. For me, it's Thursday, and we'll see you in the next one.